Today we're going to be looking at Lunar Tides in the color Citrine and Smoky Mauve. Happy Leo season! I want to talk about the color I chose and why I chose it, but I will get into that later in the video. First, I want to talk about the hair. So they are labeled 1 through 12, but that's not synonymous with hair levels. I do pictures and like close-ups near the end of the video, so the numbers just help us keep track of each swatch. These are human hair swatches, but the only one that is virgin hair is the number 4 black swatch. The rest have been chemically dyed or bleached at some point in their existence. One is a green. I just kind of wanted to see what this would do over the green. I don't think it will take away the green hue, but I'm very curious just to see what happens. 2 is gray, 3 is a natural red, 4 is obviously black, and then from 4 to 11 is a range that goes to a platinum blonde, and then 12 is like a toned version of number 11. So for my mixed videos, I like to do 2 different ratios, and I usually like to do a darker ratio on top. So this top half will have a little bit more of the smoky mauve, and then the ends will be a little bit lighter. So for the first mixture, it's going to be an 8-to-1 ratio. So that is going to be 1 part smoky mauve to 8 parts citrine. So Leo starts roughly around July 21st and ends around August 21st, but that can change year to year, which is why you usually get a rough estimate on every website, like it'll be slightly different. So if you're born around July 20th, 21st, even the 19th or the 22nd. If you have your birth time, you can go on a website like astro.com and get a natal chart or birth chart made, and that will tell you what your sun sign is, so you don't have to guess whether you're a Cancer or a Leo. Same thing if you're born around that August date as well. The most interesting thing to me is that because astrology relies pretty heavily on degrees, a astrological season like Leo season doesn't start until the sun is 1 degree in a sign like Leo. So this year, I believe Leo season started July 22nd around 9:27 a.m. my time, Central Standard Time. So hypothetically, if someone is born this year, July 22nd, but they're born like 5 a.m., they technically would be a Cancer still, which is so fun to me. For our second part, it's going to be a 20-to-1 ratio. That's again 1 part of the smoky mauve and 20 parts citrine. So I would recommend probably just starting with enough citrine to cover your hair and adding a small amount of smoky mauve as you go and kind of mixing it to see if you like the color instead of doing like 20 parts. I feel like that'd be really hard to do on a larger scale, like enough to cover someone's whole head. And actually, the bottom half here is closer to what I was imagining for Leo. So Leo is represented by the lion and is one of 3 fire signs. In astrology, the sun represents the ego or like yourself, and that also rules over Leo. And I think that's why Leo often gets associated with being like attention seekers, which by the way is not a bad thing. Like wanting attention isn't inherently negative. But another way to look at it is that Leo just wants to feel validated for who they are. So the lion, usually lion coats are kind of on the gold side. The sun is gold and fire is very warm, which is why I think Leo is usually associated with like gold and yellow. I personally tend to associate Leo with gold as well, so I kind of wanted to stay in that family. Citrine obviously is way too bright for gold, so my thought was that if I added smoky mauve into the mix, it would kind of tone it down. Smoky mauve isn't straight like purple or straight pink, it's kind of a mix of both, so I was thinking the purple colors in the mix would help to neutralize the citrine a little bit, and the pinky tones would help to warm the dye up, creating almost like a natural color but not quite. And I don't know about you, but I really like how this turned out. So I'm going to let these sit for about 3 hours. I will then rinse them out, and I'll meet you back here so we can do some comparisons. With the amount of citrine that I used on the bottom half, I really expected a bigger difference between the top and the bottom, but I probably should have expected that with yellow. And even though I intended the bottom half to be the more Leo color, I really do love how it looks on top. Like I said earlier, I wanted this to almost have a slightly natural look without being a natural color, and I think it definitely looks like a lion's mane on top. So number 1 was green. It didn't necessarily cover the green. It made it a little bit more like a mossy, earthy toned green, especially on the bottom. The top did cover a little bit better, but it still looks relatively green. The number 2 swatch was gray, and that one actually probably looks like one of the more natural versions out of like the more light swatches. Definitely comes across more brown looking, but the yellow still really comes through, so it's not quite natural. It just looks more natural than these ones. Number 3, it kind of just looks like it's a little bit warmer golden toned, which obviously that's what I used, but it didn't really take any of the red away. It still looks like a natural red. There's no difference on number 4. If there's a difference on number 5, I can't really see it. It might have warmed up the hair a little bit. Same thing for number 6. So maybe in the before and afters we'll see a difference, but they both still just look like brown, like maybe a slightly warmer toned brown. It's kind of the similar idea for 7 and 8. You can definitely see a difference now between before and after. This is much more goldeny yellow, but because of the brown base, it actually looks a little bit more natural than it were if it was blonde. So a mix like this could maybe punch up the color a little bit if you feel like your hair is not warm toned enough. But I feel like you do lose a little bit of that reddish tone that you get in the, especially the number 11 swatch has. The top and the bottom don't look that much different from each other. So the number 11 is what I pictured it turning out on both the top and the bottom. But I do think it still looks really good on 9 and 10 as well. And very similarly to these ones, it's like the darker color underneath helps to bring out more of that natural look. So if you like this slightly less natural look, you'd probably want to do a platinum blonde first. But if your hair is like a medium or light blonde, but not like a platinum blonde, you, I think, could definitely use this mix as well. Number 12 was toned, and it looks very similar to number 2, where it kind of brings out more brown. But the funny thing is, I do feel like there's more of a distinction on the number 12 though between the top and the bottom. These, it's a little bit harder to tell, but overall both the 2 and the 12 has no like warmth in the hair underneath it, like with the platinum blonde to come through, which is why I think it does look a little bit more natural on those. So as for comparisons, we are obviously going to compare citrine, but I currently do not have any dyes that look like this. So the other comparison I have is just kind of a reference for anyone who's curious, and that will be Arctic Fox in Cosmic Sunshine. This is comparable to number 12. This is comparable to number 11, 10, and 9. Okay, so by itself, my Leo mix looks a lot more golden, but compared to a yellow, you can definitely see those orangey tones coming through, which makes me really excited. This is exactly what I wanted. I decided to move each one down since it's more similar to the bottom half, but you can see just how, even with 20 parts of citrine, Smoky Mauve did just do just enough to golden it up, I guess. Citrine isn't like a highlighter yellow, but it's a very bright kind of sunshiny yellow. But as you dilute it, it does turn more of that like highlighter-y color. So here it looks a little bit warmer yellow, and then down here is closer to like a cooler yellow, like a greenish yellow. Now I don't know how this fades because I don't like to wash my swatches since I use them for comparisons, but I'm almost wondering if the pinky reddish tones in the mauve that you can kind of see here that turned it orange, if that would help counteract any green in the citrine as it fades. If anyone has had citrine in their hair, let us know if citrine fades to this similarly kind of greenish yellow. I feel like the biggest differences though are on the 11 and 12 swatches. The 9 and 10, you can definitely see a difference still. I'm not saying it's like exactly the same, but it's not too far off. So if you were looking for your hair to be a little bit more on the yellow side, you probably could just do citrine on your hair instead of doing the mix. But you know, of course, that is all up to you. All right, you know what? I decided to change my mind. So citrine, out of all of my yellows, is the most warm toned yellow. Cosmic Sunshine is very similar, but it's just slightly brighter. So I thought that would actually not be a very smart comparison. And then I thought about comparing Sunset Orange because I know some people will use that to do like a ginger on their hair, but that was just not even close at all. And I also did Sunset Orange mixed with Cosmic Sunshine, and I looked at that and that wasn't close enough either. So I decided instead we're gonna look at the ginger spice mix from Arctic Fox that I did, and that entails Sunset Orange, Cosmic Sunshine, and Purple Rain. This is comparable to number 12. This is comparable to number 11 and number 10. Now, I know that this mix also is not the best comparison. I really don't have anything like this Leo mix, but because this ginger spice mix is a mix that people will use, which I might have done it wrong, honestly, because of how red it turned out. But anyways, it is a mix that people will use to try and get a more natural color on themselves. That's usually in the like warmer range. I thought it could be good for anyone who's at least curious. Okay, so I decided to flip them upside down because the end here is what I was thinking could be a good comparison. I don't remember the ratios very well, but it's pretty clear that there's more Cosmic Sunshine in the end here than there is throughout here. Pretty sure I only used a little bit of Purple Rain, so it should be more so Cosmic Sunshine and Sunset Orange with a tiny bit of Purple Rain, I believe. I will link the video below in case you're wondering. This mix is still a lot more red than my Leo mix, but there is a chance that if you added even more Smoky Mauve, you would get a slightly more warmer orangey look. I actually think I'm gonna do a video soon on how to mix ginger colors with Arctic Fox. If that's something you're interested in, let me know. The more interest there is in a video, the more likely I am to film it sooner than later. But yeah, overall, I feel like the depth isn't really too far off with this. It's more so just the undertones. I do feel like this one looks a little bit more natural, the Arctic Fox mix. Not by a lot, because honestly it's so red that I don't think anyone's hair actually looks like that. But you could probably get away with it at work if you work somewhere that doesn't allow crazy colored hair. And same with the Leo mix. So it's really just preference at this point. But I will say I do feel like it looks the most natural, the Arctic Fox mix, on the more cool tone swatches. I actually have a gray swatch here, and I feel like this end bit looks very similar to this, which was the natural red before. I mean, there's a slight deviation, but they do look very similar. And like I said, this swatch was gray. So that is one thing to note when dyeing your hair, is the color that it's gonna be underneath and how that will affect your dye. Now I'd like to get into the before and after clips. Those, as well as any clips or pictures you see near the end of the video, will all be done in natural lighting. I hope my lovely Leos out there liked this video. If you have a request, I do have a link below to a Google form you can fill out, but just remember, I only do dyes that do not test on animals. Thank you so much to my patrons, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.